Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Tea with Tea. This is your host, Thalia. And of course, I always start my podcast by saying thank you so much, you guys, for tuning in, for showing me your support. Honestly, I love when you guys engage with me back and send me messages to discuss the topics. I love to hear you guys' opposing thoughts as well. You guys have no idea how many times you have responded something back to me, and I'm like, well, you know what? That's a thought that I haven't considered. So I want to thank everyone because this is a space where we can all share our thoughts, our opinion without judgment, just actually listening to one another and, of course, learning from one another. So today's topic is, of course, about changing your outlook on life. And I'm going to be touching in on various pieces of advice that I've been given recently that have really changed my own outlook on life. So before I share any knowledge or practices, I always try them out first and think, okay, like, does this work for me, or how did it impact me? And then I share it with you guys because you guys are my community and I want to spread the knowledge that is showered upon me onto you guys. That way we can all heal and grow together because, that's what we're doing here. So let's start with the first things that I want to share with you guys is that I'm obviously recording from not my studio. I'm recording from my new home, which is in Ibiza. I give you guys a mini house tour on my YouTube channel. If you've not seen it, go see it. But anyways, I am outside and there's going to be many natural sounds. So I want you to take it all in because I hope this podcast transports you to a new place and a new time. And also, it's out of my comfort zone. It's very out of my comfort zone. I am a perfectionist, and I think I have stopped myself from recording on video so many times because I wanted it to like be in my studio because I wanted the sound to be like impeccable. And I've realized that sometimes it's easier to just let the flow of life and the flow of things be rather than us always trying to control it. So let's just start. Let's begin. I want to share a small inside story that recently happened to me. And it's the fact that I've gotten so many messages as of recent saying, how did you start your podcast? How did you start writing your books? How did you start modeling? Like all these questions of how did I start, right? Like that's like the theme of this insight story and first piece of advice. And I wish I had a more profound piece of advice, but the best way to start is simply to start. I think we overcomplicate things and overthink things to a point where we freak ourselves out and never end up doing anything. And that is what we're going to talk about in the beginning of this podcast today. I see so much fallen potential around me sometimes. I have had so much potential in doing certain things. And because I have let the initial fear, right? You know, that little feeling when you get an idea and you're like, I really want to do this. I really want to do this. But somehow you don't do it because there's that initial thought of fear and doubt that can literally feel like you're paralyzed because you think, well, how am I going to execute this idea? I don't have this, I don't have that. And your mind initially goes to what you don't have. So, a piece of advice that I have been given around 2020, because in 2020 is really when I started like jogging down my ideas and what I wanted for my future and what I really wanted to make out of myself. One of the things that I was told by my mentor back then was that you just need to start and start with what you have. Don't focus on what you don't have. And I know that this comes from a place that we have people that we look up to in every area that we're in, right? So if you're in the medical field, you have like doctors that you look up to that have been in the field for 50 years. If you want to start a podcast, you compare yourself to the people who have been doing it for 20 years. And that is one of the things that starts making you feel like you're in lack and that maybe you shouldn't start that idea or project or vision because you don't have enough. And this is a false idea. This is simply not true. If you want to start something, you always need to start with what you have and with what you can. It doesn't matter about the final product or how you want it to be in the future. How are you meant to get to where you want if you don't start today with like the first step moving forward? So a little initial inspiration is that when I first wanted to start this podcast in 2020, mind you, we're in 2024 and I started it in 2023. There's 3 years apart from when I actually brought it to life. One of the things that I was told was that if I focused on the creative side of my project, that means the ideas that I wanted to bring forward, the messages that I wanted to bring forward. If I focused my mind on the creative side, that everything else was going to follow. And I wish I would have taken that advice sooner. I think like I freaked myself out for 3 years before I actually brought it to life. However, divine timing, it is what it is. The inspiration that I wanted to bring you here is that once you show the universe, once you show God, once you show that mysterious energy, hey, I want to do this, and you just take the first initial step, somehow, somehow, you will be provided for the rest of the steps. Like things start aligning. You start meeting people who are in the same field or pursuing something similar. You're going to start meeting people who can help you on your path. You're going to be provided for. And this happened to me with my podcast because I had told my mom, I was like, I want to start doing this podcast thing. You know, I did go to school for broadcast media and journalism. So I just thought, I was like, it is time for me to apply this knowledge, but in a way that I want to. I don't really want to go and work for a news anchoring company. I want to exercise my own voice, my own message, and do it for myself, be my own, my own boss. And I swear to God, it had not been maybe like a month or 2 months or 3 months, maybe max. My mom comes back from work, mind you, she has a housekeeping company, so it has nothing to do with broadcasting or podcasting or anything. And she says, I had these clients today, and look, they were leaving and they didn't want to take all of this equipment, so they gifted it to me. And look how crazy. It was a whole setup of podcasting equipment. I mean, like this microphone, another blue microphone. It had like the handle for the microphone if I wanted to stand it up. It had the tripod to set up my camera. It had everything that I needed to start my podcast. And I thought, I was like, this is like insane. Like this has just like magically, we like to think like that. We're like, oh, what a coincidence this has happened to me. But nothing is a coincidence. It was the fact that I had already shown the universe, my reality, hey, I want to head in this direction, and I'm making the first step. I'm jogging down the ideas. I am telling people that I want to do it, and I'm doing the actions leading up to doing it. So if you're asking yourself right now, where do I start? Just with the first step. Don't overwhelm yourself. Don't freak yourself out, and do not compare yourself to others. When you view someone and they're where you want to be, I want you to let those people be a source of inspiration, not a source of comparison. Because if you compare yourself 9 times out of 10, you're not going to end up doing shit. And then the idea that you had, the vision that you had, the project that you had is just going to be on a piece of paper for the rest of your life. And I totally get it. I am not here to be a hypocrite. I know it's not easy. It is not. You get me? Especially when we have fear staring right back at us, when we have doubt staring right back at us, when we have limited possibilities in our minds. It is very scary to take that first step. But if you listen to this podcast, it's because you needed to hear this. And today's the day to start. Take that first step. Believe in yourself. And do not listen to anyone else's fear ideas on you, like fear programming on you. When you tell someone an idea 9 times out of 10, it's very far-fetched for them. And they're like, yeah, but how are you going to do this? And how are you going to achieve that? Focus on the creative side of it. Focus on doing the first thing with, if you're writing a book, it's writing the first page and then tomorrow writing the second page. If you want to start your own business, it's about making the business plan and seeing how you actually want to impact your community. I want you to focus today on the first step, and you will focus on the second one and the third one tomorrow and the day after and the day after. But yeah, that's pretty much the first piece of advice that I want to give you. It has worked for me in every single thing that I've ever wanted to do in my life. And the more that you do it, the easier that it becomes. So the first time that you have an idea, yes, it's hard because you think like, how is this going to work out? But then you throw yourself at it, it works out, and then you listen to the source, and then the second idea comes about. And then now you already know, you're like, I know, and I have the self-power and self-belief that if I want to do something, I can achieve it just by putting my mind to it and taking the right set of actions to make that happen for yourself. In the words of Robin Sharma, which I have been reading this book by him called The Wealth That Money Can't Buy. He's an amazing author. I think he's really like captured my heart and soul because I feel like I know him, and he gave such good advice in this book. But one of the things that he said, I have it written down here for you, one of the quotes, it is that all change is hard at first, messy in the middle, and gorgeous at the end. And there's no better way to describe the creative process, because when you think of something that you want to create, you think, how the fuck am I going to do it? And then the second is trying to do it, and it's a mess, and you think, and you meet so many challenges, and you meet so many obstacles. But then at the end, when you see your creation, when you see someone reading your book, in my case, when I see someone sharing my podcast saying that it changed their lives, when I see my girls in my spiritual retreats and their meditations, and tears are running down their face, I think it was all worth it. Like, everything that I've done has been worth it, because I'm seeing the ending and it's exactly what I wanted it to be. Now, the second piece of advice is, I don't think it's going to be digested well, because I just think that as a society, we're all being programmed to overworking and the hustle culture, right? This is what's being labeled as success. This is what's being labeled as what a meaningful, purposeful life is. And I'm actually here to stir the pot. If we could say that. I am here to stir the pot, because I actually believe that health is one of, if not the most important thing in life. And when your material success is coming at the expense of your spiritual or health success, I don't think it's a equal exchange or even a worthy exchange. So what is the piece of advice here that I want to give you is that although working hard and sacrifices are needed to achieve the things that you want, I think your goal should be to live a balanced life where these sacrifices and this hard work is balanced with self-care, self-love, and self-preservation. That's how I'm going to say it, self-preservation. Because an easy way to switch your mind or just switch your outlook on life when it comes to the hustle culture is to start to say no. Like, I don't have to be at every outing. I don't have to take every single job that comes my way, because at the end of the day, if I don't have the energy, or if my health is the main center point of my life right now, how am I going to commit myself to do all these things knowing that it's going to come at a cost of my well-being? I mean, it shouldn't even be a second thought. I think everyone in our society needs to start to see that this overworking trend, it's not a long lasting plan, and it's definitely going to come at a price later on in your life, when you might be surrounded by financial success and material success, but what's worth all those things if you don't actually have the family or the health or the loving relationships to enjoy these things? Now, the second concept that pretty much within this hustle culture and overworking mentality advice that I'm giving you is that the concept that I was introduced to is about the people that we're looking up to, right? Which our society looks up to celebrities, to athletes, to billionaires. And these are the people that are being given attention. And these are the people that we're glamorizing. And these are the people that we think that we should be looking up to when we talk about success. Many times, these people that we're looking up to, yes, they are cash rich, but somehow they're still life poor. So this concept really has changed my outlook on life, because although I believe that financial stability, which I do believe, and I want you to know, and let me make very clear, financial stability is a form of wealth, and it ensures you to have security, to live the life that you want, to have freedom in your life. So I'm not sitting here saying like chill back, don't do anything, like enjoy life. That's not the case. I'm just saying that you need to balance both out. And I think in society, when you tell someone like, hey, no, I am not gonna work this much, I am actually gonna take some time off, it's seen as you don't want it bad enough, or you don't care enough about your future. You do. It's just also important to know when to say like, hey, I need a pause, or knowing to stop and be present within your life, be present with your kids, with your wife, with your family, with yourself. Like, these are things that I think people give up in exchange for, again, being cash rich. So what I'm inviting you to introduce into your life, if this piece of advice is something that you can relate to, is that even if you work a 9 to 5 job, which is an essential job, and it is a paying and respectful job. At the end of the day, I'm inviting you to think about slow living. And slow living is really just, again, an outlook change on life. And it's about slowing your life down by just simply being more present in the present moment. Okay, so I know that when I introduced this idea of slow living, people are thinking like, oh, I'm gonna be in a cottage in Italy surrounded by nature. And although that does sound very nice, this concept does not need to be outsourced. It's actually an inner source. So I'm gonna tell you pretty much how to introduce it into your life. The concept of slow living is that in such a fast-paced environment that we're currently in, with being thrown information down our throats through our phones, through our screens, I'm inviting you to start limiting those spaces. It's about turning off your phone for a day and think, I am not gonna have any social media, which I'm really trying to do that currently in my life, which is so hard. I'm like, okay, today I'm not gonna have that much screen time. And then somehow I'm like, oh my God, I've wasted hours today just scrolling. It's something that I'm implementing in my life. So I always want you to know that the advice that I'm giving you is because I'm implementing it too. In no way, shape, or form am I coming from a higher place up of telling you what to do because I live better than you. No, these are things that all of us as a society should be practicing in order for us to live a healthier lifestyle. Another thing that I'm introducing within the concept of slow living is about buying less. And this is so hard. I mean, I'm a girl. You know that shopping is like second nature to me. Like, obviously, I love to see what's new out. I want the latest things. And yeah, that's the truth. Sometimes I do want the latest things. I'm like, oh my God, like this new perfume came out. I want it. Or I see something and I'm like, I must get it. So, something that I've introduced myself with the slow living is that I give myself 24 hours to sit on the purchase. And I think, I'm like, okay, I want to buy this, but I'm not going to buy it right now. I'm going to give myself 24 hours. And in a day, if I really, really want this, then I'll buy it. And I promise you, I am not lying. I haven't bought so many things because it was just in the moment, in the splurging moment of like, I want it really bad. But then the little like fire of wanting like a little dopamine hit goes away and 24 hours pass. And I'm like, I don't actually need that. So the slow living, it's about being more present with yourself, about saying no to fewer events that you don't want to go to, about buying less, about doing less and living more. So that's my advice when it comes to the second thing that I wanted us to talk about today. I don't want you to fall into the trap of the busiest person is the most successful. I want you to slow down your life, to sit with yourself and see how you'll become wiser that way. And if you know, you know, because wisdom is success. And the person who's too busy trying to catch up and play, I want to be on the top of the game and stepping on others to get to the top, that is not the person who's most successful. They're not living a rich, purposeful life. They're in the rat race. That's the truth. And the reason why my ideology about where I wanted to be in life has changed is because little me was a fireball and she was a superstar. And I still think I'm a superstar. And I think everyone should think they're a superstar. But I have just decided to shine my light in the world in a different way. I think when I was younger, of course, I was like, blinded by the glitz and glam of like, oh my God, I want to be famous. Like, I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to have like camera flashing lights following me. I want people to ask me for my autograph. And I think that has all died down within the years because when I actually recently have stepped into being of service of others, of actually linking my purpose to my life, of knowing that my purpose is even bigger than myself. Like, this is something that I have been called upon by something bigger than me. Helping people has become the center of my life. Helping women to feel confident about themselves and to find themselves and guide them back to themselves has become the center of my life. Where now, like, the fame and the external validation has absolutely like zero impact on how I view my life when it comes to terms of like where I want to be. And you might be wondering yourself, like, T, what's the message here? Like, you're talking about yourself. What is your message here? But my message here is that you do not need 100 million followers. You do not need to be followed around with cameras, flashing lights, asking for your autograph. You do not need the glitz and the glam in order to be a leader and in order to set an example for the world. Rewind if you need to, but I need you to know that. because being a leader is so much to do with the example that you're setting on your day-to-day life than the person that you're trying to be or the fame that you're trying to attain. At the end of the day, I at least view someone as impactful when I go to the grocery store and that person treats me nicely, when that person gives me a nice service and they impact me and they greet me with a smile on my face. I'm like, that person is a leader. That person has just influenced me into my day. When I go to a restaurant and the waitress is so kind, they know their menu, they give me exquisite service, you could tell that they're finding purpose in their life, in their job. I think to myself, I'm like, that person is a leader. So a lot of the things that we're glamorizing and the people that we're glamorizing, they're not actually having a positive impact on our community. They're actually fooling us with all these things and all this material gain, making us think that that's actual success when it is not. So being a positive impact within your community should be one of the main things in your life and should be one of the aspects that you view when it comes to success. One of the ways that you can choose to be a leader in your community and in your life, which you will see how it's going to enrich your soul, it is by being that person who's always spreading love, who's always spreading kindness. It's that person who you come across in the smallest ways and you think like, oh my God, they've honestly said this compliment to me and I'm so thankful because I needed that today. Be the kind of person that you want to encounter when you go out into the world. This is something that I've actually implemented within my own life. Like, I'll give you a small example of what I've been trying to do. If I go to the grocery store, how I said before, I greet the person, which I always do, but I ask them, like, how's your day been? Good, good, nice, I'll see you. It's about making those small interactions with humans as positive as you can. Sometimes when I get into my Uber driver, instead of like going on my phone and scrolling the whole time, I'm like, hi, how are you? Okay, you're good. Where are you from? And sometimes these people, these strangers, have had messages for me because the universe will use every person that you come across to send you what you need to hear. And sometimes because we're so disconnected and because we're so caught up in our own lives, we forget that these human to human interactions can actually make such a difference in your life and in other people's lives. So I feel like we've gone over today three very important things that can change the outlook on your life. I think the first one, of course, it was that the best way to start is today, is just to start. So if you're listening, then I hope that resonated with you. Then the second one is for you to introduce the way of slow living instead of like the rat race that our society is telling us to do. And the third is to choose to be a leader in your own community, to not try to attain all these things or really not to think that, oh, I just worked this job and I'm not a leader and like, well, I don't, I only know three people. Like, what? Even if you make a positive impact on one person, that is enough because everything is like a domino effect. The effect that you have on someone, that person will have on somebody else. So I hope that all that I have said today has helped you in any way that you needed. I hope that you really practice these things within your life because you are going to see how your life is going to enrich and purpose. And when we feel grateful and when we feel rich in the heart, then life becomes just as abundant and rich on the outside. Because as cliche as it sounds, everything on the outside is a reflection of the inside. So that's all that I have to say for today. I hope that you guys loved it and I hope that you guys enjoyed my new view if you're watching on Spotify and it's on video. Yeah, so rate, review, and leave your thoughts down below. Please interact with the polls after. I love to see what you guys have to say. And I will see you guys back here next time. I love you, and I'll see you.